And welcome to the Transcend and Succeed show. This show is dedicated to inspire you to take steps to unlock the limitless potential within you and pave the way to an extraordinary life. The Transcend and Succeed show was born from the belief that greatness resides in each of us and it's stuck inside of us waiting to be unleashed. So, my mission for the show is to provide education and information to allow you to change your perceptions and gain the wisdom to prompt you to take action to transcend your limitations and achieve abundance in every aspect of your life. So, with my special guest, we will delve into personal growth, mindset transformation, and the power of positive shifts in perception. My guests will share their learning experiences along with practical tools and powerful insights, empowering you to gain awareness and create positive shifts. So, if you're ready to conquer your barriers, overcome your challenges, and embrace your true potential, you have come to the right place. So, without further delay, I'm delighted to introduce my very first guest, Laura Cross. Now, Laura is an Air Force veteran and entrepreneur dedicated to promoting self care. With multiple successful businesses under her belt, she has made a significant impact as a self care coach, author, and a TV show host. With over 16 years of experience as a certified travel agent, Laura is the owner of White Sands Premier Travel, providing personalised travel experiences. And as the founder of White Sands Self-Care LLC, she offers valuable education, resources, and support to individuals on their self-care journey. Laura's unwavering commitment to empowering others and her expertise in holistic well-being have made her a trusted leader in the field. And I've been blessed to have known Laura for several years now, and we are in alignment with many things, one of them being self-care and the importance of putting yourself first. So welcome, Laura.
Thank you, Dawn, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me on.
You're so welcome. It's lovely to see you. So could you start by talking to us about your experience as an Air Force veteran and how it's influenced your wellness journey?
Oh, yeah, that was quite a while ago. Actually, you when I was growing up, you started all the little jobs, the babysitting and the working McDonald's, all the other stuff. It was after college when I went into the Air Force. My father was an Air Force veteran, and it was encouraged for me to go talk to them and see what they had to say. And it didn't sound bad, so I went in. If anyone's familiar with from military life, it is a totally different one. It's not that you're not allowed to think for yourself. You can, but you do what you're told. You're theirs 24/7. It's a whole different world. Didn't know much about self-care at that time, but that is where I met my husband. And my husband was also Air Force. And it was shortly after that Desert Storm made my career field over 100% over man. So I was offered an early out. And so I went ahead and separated because it's easier for us to move with just one of us in and not two. And so, and that was for the sake of sanity. You don't get married to be separated all the time, but there's a lot of jobs out there that make that happen. And we accepted all of that as, kind of the way of life. I don't regret, doing that at all. I was proud to serve. So was my husband. He was a lifer. And, they always tell you that, if the military wanted you to have a spouse, they would have issued you one. And, you know, and it's really kind of true. It's not their priority. It's, their priority is for you to be there to serve your country and go where you're supposed to go. And so I didn't want that chance of being separated. So when I had that opportunity, I separated, and we got married back in 1990. It was one of those quick things, I met him on New Year's Eve. He asked me to marry him 2 weeks later. And then we
Oh,
got married that September in 1990. So
that was quick.
it was quick, but sometimes you just know. There's
Of
something inside
course,
you that
yeah.
tells you that you just know that that's the right thing.
You just have that spark and that connection as soon as you meet. I know exactly what you mean. Yes.
Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
we traveled all over, and then we were so happy to get back to the States. I had thrilled to be back to Colorado because that's where I grew up from second grade on up. Well, I wasn't born there because I was military bouncing around. But Colorado, was my home. And so when we got back there, we were thrilled to be there. And now he was only going what we call TDY. It's temporary duty, away. He was only going away for like 3 months at a time, except for his 1 year remote he had to do in Korea. Um, and so again, but when we got to Colorado, what the military told us was that we were paid 36% under what it takes to live there, which meant I was getting a job. Either way, I had to have a job one way or another, but I took night jobs because that paid more. And
Mhm.
so again, we were like two ships passing in the night, you
Yeah.
know. We
And
were
it
young.
is very expensive to live in Colorado. I was there for a few years and yeah, the cost of living was just going through the roof.
Well, and this is back in let's see, 98 when we moved
Mhm.
there. So it was not as expensive in 98.
Yeah.
It has gone through the roof now. But so that was back in 98 when we moved there. And so, you don't think twice about it. I was raised in a generation to where you go to school, you go get a degree, and you go to work for somebody, or you do what you need to do to make ends meet. That's what I did. I didn't think anything was wrong with that. For the most part, we thought I was happy, but, December
Oh, it was just
21st.
what you had to do, right? Just what you had
Yeah,
to do. Mhm.
yeah. December 21st of 2004, all of that dramatically changed. We went to lunch with my parents and my grandma at 12 o'clock, at Red Robin, having lunch right before Christmas, and by 10 o'clock, my husband was dead.
Yes.
36 years old, I had just turned 37, and that is when I learned life was too short to spend my time answering for other people. I couldn't
Absolutely.
do it anymore. It it was it's taken me 18 years. It's been almost, 18 years, and it's been a progression
Yeah.
of different things. And, I always tell people there is no right, there's no wrong. I like creating judgment-free spaces because that's kind of what you need. Everyone relates to different things differently. They
Yeah.
have different perceptions, they're gonna handle it different. I was around people that could lose their spouse and go back to work the next day. I couldn't do that.
Yeah, and judgment, like you said, that you want a judgment-free space because that is one of the most detrimental vibrations to have in the body is judgment. Um, and people don't understand if they're judging others, they're actually judging themselves too. So they're not doing anyone any favors at all. So yeah, absolutely, I totally agree with you there.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways, and I mean, that's when I had went into travel, and because I wanted people to get away, escape that rat race.
Yeah.
Because of the military and us constantly moving and Desert Storm, we never had a honeymoon. We never had a vacation of our own to speak of. I'm all for visiting family, especially when you're out and around. They want to see you, but you only get the 2 weeks or whatever a year. Or some people only get 2 weeks a year. We always spent that time visiting his side of the family or my side of the family. And if you're out of country, out of state, it eats up a lot of time. And it's
And
not that it was a
energy, and
it
energy.
is, and it's not
Yeah.
that it's bad, but it's not yours. It wasn't our time.
Oh,
We just
yeah.
kept thinking we'd have time when he retired, but he died a year and a half at
Yeah.
36 before he retired.
And I know what I'm just want to tell you a little bit about, because I'm from Scotland and
Mhm.
living in Texas, and for several years after, moving over here, my husband and I would travel back to the UK. And after the first time, we realized that we didn't have enough time for 2 weeks. We needed three. And at the time, we drove everywhere to meet everybody. We were exhausted by the time we got home. So it really wasn't some downtime for us.
Yep.
Yeah, it really was. It was nice for everybody, to get together and see them, but it really is exhausting.
It is, and it's nice when you don't have to be back by a certain time or you don't have to report. I didn't wanna be working for someone and have to, because within 13 months of my husband's death, I was in 4 different hospitals, 3 different funerals. I had had enough. I actually literally had people come to say to me, "I don't know if I wanna be friends with you. Everyone around you dies."
Oh,
Well, okay, your
oh my
choice.
goodness.
It's pretty hurtful at the time. People just don't think. I mean, in their way, they might think they're being funny or they just don't know what to say. And, so a lot of people don't think and they just blah. I've even had people that say, "Oh, I understand what you're going through. I got divorced." Well, I'm sorry. Being divorced and losing someone that's, has passed
Totally
away,
different.
it's not the same thing.
Yeah,
Really not the same thing. Sometimes you just wanna reach out and slap people.
yeah.
But, it was an experience, and I've always been the caregiver take. I've always put everybody first. I always thought that made me happy. I didn't learn what massages were or chiropractor or any of this other holistic stuff until after I lost my husband.
Mhm.
And that opened up a whole new world because 4 years before he died, I had a bulge disc in my back and a lipoma that was swelling. It pinched a nerve. I would lose the feeling down my entire left leg. They had me on so many different muscle relaxers, painkillers, because that was the way they just throw drugs at you,
Yeah.
and they do that. And I was on the anxiety medicine and antidepressant and all that to help deal with his loss. And I don't regret doing that. I think the antidepressants actually helped me change kind of some of my thinking. But I started out by running around trying to fix everybody because I didn't want to lose anyone else. You can't help them that way. I got news for you. You
Yeah.
wind up losing people, and maybe they weren't there to be in my life in the first place. Who knows? Because I did it out of my heart because I didn't want to lose anybody. But no one wants to be told that they should stop smoking or how they should live, and truly, they shouldn't be. It is their choice. It is
It
their
is.
life.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that took me a long time to learn that and to come around and to just be okay and stop trying to help people the wrong way.
Yeah.
There is I would say there is a right way and a wrong way.
There is.
Um,
Yeah. I
and for
find I find that I need to, take a step back and at least put out some seeds, about some different things and allow that seed to grow in the subconscious mind if it starts to grow. Because I think if you just put it out there that you would be willing to help when they're ready,
Mhm.
because that person can't change unless they want to. It's got to be their choice to do so. Yeah, I totally feel you.
Exactly, and working from home and having different jobs, like being in travel, I can't tell you how many people are like, "Oh, I know so and so could really use this. This would help them." Well, that's great. It can, but unless they see it, it's just like a used car salesman. It's like someone else beating you up with something else. They, like you said, they have to want the help or want to change in order to make those differences. So, all of it's been learning lessons, and if you don't get out of your comfort zone, which I didn't for a while, and it really hit me. People call me a perfectionist. I was like, you call it perfectionist, I call it pride. Call it what you want. Call
It's
it
all
what you
about
want.
perceptions.
I have learned to let go of that though, because it really can stop you dead in your tracks. You might never get where you want to be if you're that perfectionist and you're waiting to be perfect. It doesn't happen. But when I didn't get my travel business to where I wanted it and an opportunity came up or I had to make ends meet, I went back to work. I was still doing the travel. I was still building that business. That became my plan B instead of, my plan A where it should have been. But that took a lot of years, a lot of, coaching, different business coaches, experiences. I think coaching and, I even went back to school for a while. All of that stuff to me, I think it's, it's great knowledge, but it has its place. And since I had the opportunity to go back to school and actually finish a degree, because I had 2.5 years of college before I went in, it was just never in one subject. So I didn't have a degree. When you're young, you go and I was like, okay, business, they're talking about widgets. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Not interested. I liked writing computer programs. So I did that until Air Force said, hey, you're going to be an aircraft electrician and wire F-15s and F-16s. Well, okay, I was on the delayed enlistment program. So I, picked up a semester of electronics. And now when I went back and things settled down like 2015 to 2018, and I knocked out a bachelor's and a master's, you know, for business and leadership and all that project management, all that stuff. Okay, so who cares? I mean, it was great that teachers were sharing their experiences, but
Hmm.
they're really just regurgitating stuff out of a book. Out of all
Yeah,
that, I had one person saying, if I'm not here to help you be an entrepreneur, then what the hell am I doing here?
yeah,
And we live in a whole, different world. So I'm not saying that education didn't have its place,
of
but
course. Yeah,
because I still learn things, and I love learning, but I love learning more from what I'm doing now from other
yeah,
business owners, other entrepreneurs, other people that are in that space of holistic health and wellness, and that they know you can make a living for working for yourself. And let me tell you, when you do that, that is just one of the things that has helped, my self-care.
mhm,
Because if I don't do something or I don't succeed in something, that's on me,
yeah,
That's on me. And if I have another death in the family, which we've had two of them recently, last December and January, I lost my father. Um, you know, it's still traumatic, so don't get me wrong. It's still traumatic, but because of all these things in this journey that I have taken and learned about self-care, it has enabled me to process it, perceive it a little bit differently, and deal with it a lot quicker and not knock me down and not knock me back.
sure. So, what are some of the things that you actually did to improve your self-care when you realized then that you needed to look after yourself, otherwise you'd get, so burned out? You'd
Mhm.
mentioned massage earlier, and that's, it's a very physical thing to start with. Was there anything else, any other areas, whether it be mental, emotional, physical and spiritual?
Yeah, so I started with, massage and the chiropractor and all that, and then I learned I didn't need the painkillers. I don't need this, I don't need that, and I'm like, not touching them anymore. Not doing it. And so then as I learned and started learning more from people, I mean, when I went through that whole school period of back to school, for one, I was kind of horrified. I haven't been in school like 30 something years. Now they're talking about this and that. I'm like, okay, I don't remember that in high school, but all right, and I was afraid of failing. And I had a 4.0. I kept a 4.0. I was doing really well.
Oh,
But
wow.
I was reading now 60 to 100 something pages a week, which I didn't like reading. I'm writing and researching at least 2 papers a week.
Mm.
And, one of my travel partners is like, "Well, that's your job now." I'm like, "No, this is not my job," But you get so frustrated and people would compliment me on my writing. I'm like, "They have no idea what I was going through." I was getting locked up through here from being in the computer all the time. And then I was like figuring out this shouldn't be this hard. And you get so frustrated. Number one, I had to learn to get up and walk away.
Yeah,
And I think you and I have learned that over the years. Sometimes when you take on new stuff and you start to get frustrated, it shouldn't be this hard. You have to know when it's time to just get up and walk away.
yeah.
And it sounds maybe doesn't make sense, but think about it. If you get up and you walk away, like here now that I'm in Missouri, we have beautiful property. I've got birds, I got my critters and stuff that I feed, beautiful trees, plush green. I go outside and I just enjoy nature and I just
Mhm.
watch the critters. It's just something that makes your brain switch.
Yes, it does. It makes such a big difference. And we're much the same because in Colorado, we were in very much a suburban area. So we had like a tiny backyard and a back deck. And if you opened the doors and walked out onto the back deck and looked to your left and your right, you could see like 12 or 14 houses. And you could actually stand on your back deck and have conversations with the neighbors.
Mhm.
So when we moved here, we back onto nature. It's just a big treed area. and it's so, so quiet. And I love to get outside and just, sit. It's just so hot right now. I don't know if you're experiencing it. I mean, we're getting constant days of 115 degrees. And although I like to get out in the sunshine, I just don't think I could cope with that for now.
For brief moments, it's not bad. We're hitting about 97 today. We've had rainstorms come
Yeah,
through. But I still don't let it stop me. I go out for a few minutes. It's like, okay, I can go back in the air
yeah.
conditioning, but hey.
But isn't walking out in nature, isn't it really great for grounding? It's like reconnecting you to the earth,
Mhm.
and having some of that stress just removed from you. It really does make such a difference just to get out and walk, even for 5 minutes a day, barefoot, if there wasn't ants. But you catch my drift.
Yeah, and until I met you and others, I didn't even realize in a sense that that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
I knew it from the aspect that and I'll say this real quick, but, I was always saying that how I'm great at multitasking.
Mhm.
I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that think they're the world's greatest multitasking. I got news for you. It's a myth. We don't multitask. Your brain is literally constantly switching back and forth between one thing and the other. It may feel like you're accomplishing two things at once, but you really aren't.
Yeah, you
And
can
you
only
really
do one
don't
thing at a
do them.
time.
Yeah, and you don't do them to your best ability. So that's why I'm saying if you go out, get your brain, just let it dump and think about something else. I'm sure we've all had those experiences where you're trying to think of like maybe who sung that song or the words and you can't think of it. You might wake up in the middle of the night and poop just popped in your head.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, okay, now the stuff comes up, but it's
Yeah,
because you allowed it to dump.
that's very true, and you've got to do that. It's
You do.
it's very good for the soul. Okay, now is a good time. We're just going to have a quick break, and we're going to listen to some messages from our sponsor. So we'll be right back.
Hi, Laura Cross, your host for Mindful Mondays, every Monday at 1 p.m. Central Time, where you can embark on a transformative journey of self-care and ultimate happiness. Tune in to the Voyage to Vitality channel on the Achieve TV network. Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. Be there, be mindful, and join us on E360 TV.
And we're back with Laura Cross. Okay, no, so we're talking about self-care today. So, Laura, I know you're a self-care coach.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you talk to us a bit about how you help your clients? What are what's the education, the resources, and the strategies that you use to help them to achieve holistic balance?
Right. And yeah, and how I got there, like I said, I was in travel, and when COVID scared the snot out of everybody for, traveling, I realized the reason I wanted people to travel was to escape that rat race and to take better care of themselves. And so that's when I really morphed over to self-care. And I love building these communities that provide that education, the resources, the connection and the collaboration because for me, when I work with people, I'm a military veteran, blue collar worker turned entrepreneur. So I work with solopreneurs because that's a path that I can relate to, that I understand, and that I've been through it. Now, what works for me is not going to necessarily work for everybody, but that's something we need to discover and find from having from having a conversation, about, because like I said, everybody's different.
Mm.
So not everything works for there. I can give them some of the tips and techniques and stuff that I've used to get there. And when people have, and that's something that we have to work on together and to do that journey. It's not that, I think almost in any coaching, it's not that it's not stuff we don't know. I think it's stuff that we forget about because we get so consumed with what we're stuck in and overwhelmed that we forget about it.
Yeah.
So, for me, a coach is really to just, yeah, give possibilities, things
Mhm.
for them to try, give them accountability. Let's work on this together, because one thing I've noticed is, for one, is that you need people around you that are supportive.
Yes, absolutely. That's 100%.
Mhm. Jim Rohn will tell you, you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
And that is 100% true. If you spend your time with a bunch of people that say you can't do that, or why are you going to do that, or they're full of drama, you're not ever going to bust out of that until you no longer accept that drama,
Yeah.
and you start surrounding yourself that people that are more positive, not judgmental, and they're very supportive. And it helps you, change your focus and let you grow.
Yeah.
Um, so I like working with people. There's, a couple of tips and stuff that I could give people, like even today. Some of the things that I've learned is the only thing you can control is you.
Yes.
There's a lot of garbage going on today. I don't even watch the news. I know it's there. I don't need it in my face. But you can't control it. It's not bad to know about it, but don't let it consume
Yeah.
what you do. It
Don't
only
mentally
you.
digest it. Yeah, if it's going to upset you later on.
Yep. Yep. You have to let it go. The only thing you can truly control, and I think parents struggle with that as well, or people, and it's not that it's not well intentioned.
Mhm.
It's just that they may not see things the way you do, and they go by, all they can do is go by their experiences,
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
true.
So
Very
that's why I like the judgment-free spaces. It can be a different perspective,
yeah.
but, the only thing you can control is you, and if you want to enforce that self-care and stuff, then that's you that needs to do that.
Yeah, and it's
And
about not allowing something that you can't control to affect you, because that just causes stress, and because you can't control it causes
yeah,
even more stress. You're just going round and round in a circle. Yeah.
I can't control other people's perceptions. I can't control if they think what I'm doing is foolish or woo-woo or whatever you wanna call it.
Yep.
You get a lot of people, first of all, when you mention self-care, that they're like, "Oh, that's selfish."
Huh.
It's really not. You think about it, it's essential for a healthier you.
Mhm.
And being in travel, I know you've used the oxygen mask, thing, and that's true. But I'm also a car person, so I will tell you, it is like topping your engine off, topping your oil off in your car all the time and never taking it in for maintenance,
Oh yeah,
you
talk about
know?
the sludge.
Well,
Yeah,
the sludge, and guess what? Your engine seizes up.
that's a
Your
very good way of looking at it.
Yep,
Yeah,
your body is the exact same way.
I
If
like it.
you just keep going to the doctors and getting drugs and getting this and patching up this problem, but all you've done is dull the pain, you haven't got to the root or the cause of it. And
Yes.
there's different perceptions, and you just have to have an open mind. There's different perceptions as to what could be causing it. Past trauma and experiences that maybe you thought you were over with, it could be your
Yes.
environment, it could be what you're eating. I think today we're so quick to throw labels on everything
Oh yeah, we slap labels on
and
everything, don't we?
name it a disease and let's throw a drug at it.
Yes. Mm,
Guess
mm.
what? Plenty of people got along really great before all that. I'm not saying it doesn't have its place, but there are other options.
Uh-huh.
And you just have to understand, if you keep going or you have to keep getting different medications, which is what I was doing when I had the back problem. They put me on one muscle relaxer and painkiller. It wasn't working. Oh, well, okay, let's put her on a different one. Well, let's put her on a different one. In the meantime, I am putting on weight because you have to eat to combat the medication,
Yes.
and you can't move, you can't do this, you can't pick up that. So regular exercise or any of that or normal life was out the window,
Mhm.
you know? and it had a lot of side effects that I didn't realize until after my husband died, which is another reason I refuse.
Yeah, and you're not told about the side effects. And you know about my journey. I had an accident whereas I broke the bottom disc in my back,
Mhm,
so it was squeezing onto the sciatic nerve and causing lots and lots of pain. And the first thing the doctor at the emergency room did was give me painkillers, like super strong ones, muscle relaxants, and sleeping tablets. And at the time when you're in pain, when you really can't function at all, you're in so much pain, you don't think about that, so you'll just take whatever comes to you. But
mhm.
when you're told, right, take these, and if you're not feeling any better in 6 weeks, just go back and see your own doctor, you don't realize how detrimental these tablets can be. And when you go back with a side effect that you're having, they'll give you another tablet to combat that. So instead of thinking, oh, well, the tablet might not be doing any good, let's take you off that one and see how it all works. It's just not a good thing at all.
No,
No.
and
And there
because
are
most
other ways. I think that's the message that we're trying to get out as
yeah.
well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because most doctors, they're not well versed in necessarily all the side effects. They just know what drug could interact with another one, but if you talk to a pharmacist or something, or if you read, I mean, how okay, I'm guilty, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there. When you get a new prescription, it's, like this with a ton of freaking words.
And
No
you
one
can
wants
hardly read it. It's so
no one
small.
wants to take the time to read it, so
Or maybe that's our age. I don't know. I maybe didn't have my glasses on.
it's like a legal document. Who wants to read it? So
It
your
is.
doctor said this, you trusted him, you go. With my late husband, I learned not to fully trust. I learned to educate myself. I'm not
Mhm.
saying get paranoid and read everything out there and think, oh my God, you're going to die today, because there's a lot of stuff out there. Breathing air could kill you. So, just educate yourself so that you ask the right questions
Indeed.
and
Yeah. And
not let them
and
just pump you through.
yeah, and some of the side effects on these things, it could range from, a slight headache all the way through to death. And you think, well, I think I would rather have pain for a little while until I get this
Yeah.
sorted out rather than the possibility
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
all these conditions that are a lot worse than the one I'm experiencing. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
And the other thing that I get, that a lot of people, as soon as you mention self-care, their mind goes to, "Ooh, bubble baths and woo woo," I it's different for everybody, you know? For some people,
Yeah,
like my
different.
fiancé, it could be out working on his race car. It could be taking walks. One
Yeah.
of my I'm still working on the meditation thing, and I know that works for a lot of people, but me, my happy place is dancing and music. So I got music and tunes. I'm good to go. I've always loved dancing. I love all types of music.
Yeah.
It's just my happy place.
Yeah.
Um,
There
so
are
there's
many different
no,
ways.
some people it's working out, and it's working out on a regular basis. The thing is that a lot of people think that, oh, they don't have time for that.
Mhm.
Well, the truth is you don't have time not to.
Yeah, need to kind of make time. And you're absolutely right. I totally agree. It's different for every single one of us. For me, I enjoy cooking.
Mhm.
So that's meditative to me because I'm away thinking about what it's going to look like and what I need to chop up next. And I really, really enjoy doing it. And my husband, he'll come in at night, and if he's had a pretty stressful day, which he does quite a bit working in retail, he'll just, change his shoes and he'll just pick up his guitar and he'll go to the other side of the house and he'll tinkle away on his guitar and strum away for as long as he needs to. But it's completely different for everybody. And you're right that people do think that it's bubble baths or it's going for a massage, but it could be whatever calms your mind. It
Mhm.
could be sitting outside, or taking a hot bubble bath and reading a book for 15, 20 minutes. Burning a candle, burning some incense, taking a walk in nature. There are so many different ways.
Yeah, and you have to kinda look at all aspects. As you know, or as you mentioned, we both lived in Colorado.
Yeah.
I think you moved to Texas shortly after I moved to
Yeah.
Missouri,
Just a
and
couple of months. Yeah.
we moved to Missouri, a year ago, and it's been wonderful. And I almost felt well, it wasn't easy leaving my family and my friends. I'm not gonna say that. Everyone asked me, "Oh, you got family in Missouri?" I'm like, "No, my family's all in Colorado." But there was different things. I already lost my husband, and already lost everything once. My fiance worked for Rocky Mountain Oil Change, and the owner was made an offer from Grease Monkey that he couldn't refuse. Went into retirement, great, but that became a corporate nightmare for him. We
Mhm.
didn't like the way Colorado was going, and I could literally see it on his face. Even my family was mentioning, "Oh, he looks tired all the time." Well, he did come from work. I said, "No, you don't understand. He looks like that all the time."
Mhm.
You know, I can be gone, which from there and go back 2 months later, and you wouldn't recognize the place. They are constantly building and popping stuff up. That was an unhealthy environment for us.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
wasn't that I wanted to be farther from my, family,
Yep.
but, hey, Dakota and I race cars. We take road trips all the time. 12 hours, I can be home. I drive
Yeah.
back home, or I could fly and get there even quicker. I mean, we're not without means to go back there,
Mhm.
but we needed the environment change. Now, I'm not saying for everybody that that's not not everybody needs to pack up and move and
Mhm.
uproot everything. I mean, I've spent over 35 years of my life in Colorado.
Mhm.
I just don't like the way it's headed. Here we have property, it's peaceful, it's a totally different environment, different people. I always tell people, and they kind of laugh. I said, "Here people wave at you like with one finger, but it's not the one to tell you you're number one. It's just to say, hey,
Uh-huh.
off the steering wheel. It's not the hey, the other way. Totally different environment, and it
Yeah.
has changed so much."
Mhm.
Because he doesn't, he's not uptight all the time. We work on things together, and it's changed his whole demeanor. It's helped both of our health. Um, it's just been a wonderful change, and
And I
sometimes
have
you
to
need to do that.
I have to agree with the change of environment. It's been wonderful because both my husband and I have been, raised in really densely populated areas. So there's never any peace, really, peace and quiet. There's always noise from the motorways, from, the trucks and the cars, and there's never any peace. And moving out here was just fantastic. We would sit out having our coffee on the deck in the morning and think, this is just really strange, but it's so wonderful just to listen to nature.
Mhm.
Just nature, the birds chirping and watching the squirrels running across, and it really is. It's wonderful. Yeah, made a
Yeah.
big difference to us as well. Yeah.
I mean, if you're not waking up and just looking forward to the day or ready to start the day, then you really need to take a look inside and figure out why you're not. Is
Uh-huh.
it your environment? Is it the job? Is it what you're doing?
Hmm.
You know? I'm not gonna lie, I'm 55 years old. It took me 50 something years to figure out who I really am. And when I moved to Missouri, I got to feel more like who I am.
Hmm.
Not you find mentors and you follow them because you're always taught that, well, you're normally taught that if you want to succeed, you find a mentor and you follow them. And
Hmm.
that's great. I was great at following, but it doesn't always work for you. You
Yeah.
know, you need to learn to take what people teach you, but make it your own.
Yeah. And
And
following on to what you said there about waking up in the morning, can you tell us what your morning routine is? Do you have like a self-care morning routine?
I do. I have learned, and not everybody has this kind of time. If you're still working a job, I got it. You don't have this kind of time. You can always set yourself up early, but for a lot of times, I wake up automatically. The alarm would go off at 7, but I'm normally awake. I start waking up 6:30, and if I am, there's no sense in me going back to sleep. I just get up. But
Mhm.
if nothing else, I'm always up by 7, and I'm normally awake by then. My first thing is to, open the blinds if they're closed, and I take the dog out. I feed my squirrels, and then, we come back in, and because it's so hot out, Bug and I will take time to play before it gets too hot because he loves to play and run and catch a toy. So we do that. And then I feed him, I get lunch together, but then I sit down and I either have a book that I'm reading, I have a frequency healing so I can
Mhm.
run programs, see what my aura looks like, run my frequency programs while I'm sitting there reading. That is my time.
Yeah.
So, and then I have, a 10-minute workout because there's like a club e-fit. So I do my little workout, I get cleaned up, I get ready for the day, and my phone stays on silent
Mhm.
until 10 AM.
Yeah.
I do not turn that silent ring off till 10 AM. And I
Yeah.
am normally not looking at emails until
But
10
that's so
AM.
important that you do that. It really is so important. You've got to give yourself that space where you're not constantly thinking about who's messaging you or what you have to do at work. If it's 10 o'clock that you want to start, it's 10 o'clock you look. I'm the same. I'm the same.
And
I
that
tend to
brings
use,
us into another tip too, boundaries.
uh-huh. Oh, yes. Very important.
Mhm. Set those boundaries.
Yes.
Normally when I'm working with people, I'm like, okay, I will make exceptions, especially when I'm working for people that are in other countries. There's time zones, but there's a reason for that. But for the most part, 10 AM is when my phone goes on. And I'm not saying that I mute it, but normally by 5 PM to 6 PM, well, actually by 5 PM, I'm done.
Hmm.
My calendar is set to you can schedule with me between 10 and 5.
Yeah.
That's it, and it's Monday through Friday.
Hmm.
My weekends are mine, and, I got Tuesday blocked out, because Tuesday's normally me and Dakota's day to go do
That's your
stuff.
days. Yeah, of
It's our
course.
days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I'm not
Absolutely.
saying it's not okay to make exceptions, you wanna make exceptions, but don't keep making exceptions so much to where those exceptions overrun your boundaries,
Yes.
you
Uh-huh.
know? I find a lot of it, especially with, small business owners. Okay. You worked really hard. We've all worked very hard to build our business to get where we are,
Indeed.
and you're afraid of missing that sale or doing this. Got news for you. They'll be there. If you walked into a store, say it closes at 9, you're there at 9:05, they ain't staying open for you. They're
Yeah.
closed.
Hmm.
So if you're closed, and people need to respect that because
Yes.
I guarantee you they're not answering your emails right away or looking at it. They get to it when they get to it.
Yeah. And what you're
And
talking about is respect for yourself, building self-respect,
mhm.
where you can feel good and it's reducing the stress in your life. Yeah, I totally
Yeah,
hear
because
you.
that adds a lot of stress where if you get something that's like, "Oh my god, what's this person gonna think if I don't answer?" Then you got 10,000,000 things, especially if you wind up petty or you overthink things, which I've always had a tendency to do, but I've recognized it faster now, and I'm like,
Yes.
"You know what? Need
Mhm.
to let that go." That's just
Well, the recognition, it's awareness, isn't it? You don't understand there's an issue until you become aware of it. Because if you're not aware of something, how can you change it? I talk a lot about that. Your awareness and your perceptions and your action are really the three points.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
know
you
you.
and I did this TV show, so,
Yeah,
I have my TV show, you have yours, so we started setting up I had to dial that calendar back because when it first started and I didn't have it there, all of a sudden, boom, 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 I got 4 or 5 interviews in one day.
I know.
And I'm like, "Holy cow.
Yeah, we can't
Where
do
did
this.
my day just go?" I mean, I got my self-care time, but I'm like, Dakota comes home and he's like, "Oh, what are you having dinner?" I said, "Sorry, I did not take anything out, just a hot dog sandwich, whatever. I haven't had time today." I'm like, "Okay, that's just not cool." So I had to go on my calendar and you had to fix it.
Yeah,
And I also learned to not worry about it. I did everything I could to make sure they were notified. I'll hang on that Zoom for about 10 minutes. If they haven't showed up by then, boom, we're done. You can reschedule.
yeah.
I have a life. I'm not going to sit here because you're running behind.
Nope,
It
absolutely.
I
And I
call it
found exactly the same. I think when we first started out, we were full of, full of enthusiasm, and we had all these, like 8 hours a day open on our calendar. And then I think in the first week, once we got totally swamped, that really changed. But I think we had to go through that to
Mhm.
understand that we couldn't work at that pace for 8 times a day. We just couldn't do it. So sometimes you have to go through it and get kind of wiped out energetically to actually make those changes.
Yeah, and I don't know how long it took you, but it only took me like 2 days to say, "Okay, get into Calendly. I gotta fix this."
I
I'm
think it
like
was two or 3 days for me as well. Yes, when the
I'm
whole
like,
when the first week booked up that fast, I was remember thinking, oh no, not can't do this every single week, and that's when it was changed. Absolutely, but it was really good that we actually stepped up and made those changes to so that our well-being wasn't overly affected, instead of just trying to think, oh, we really need to step up the game and keep doing it, keep
yep.
that strength up, because we'd have been wiped out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I relate all of that to self-care
Yeah.
because if I had not practiced my own self-care, I always try to lead by example. I don't sit there and tell somebody to do something or suggest somebody to do something when I'm not willing to do it myself.
Hmm.
I think there's nothing worse than trying to follow someone when they're saying, "Oh, do this, and that," and they do the exact opposite. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, okay, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But again, when we moved here, oh my God, yeah, it took me a while to start business because I was so loving and drowning in my own self-care. Then I realized it's like,
Yes.
okay, well, I really kind of need to get my business.
Got to come back to earth at some point.
Gotta get
Although it'd be
that,
nice to
gotta get
stay
that up
there.
and going. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite sayings or abbreviations that I even taught one of my friends, I said is NMP, not my problem.
Not my problem. That's a
Not
good
my
one. I'm going to
problem.
steal that. I'm going to steal that. NMP, not my problem.
It's not my problem, you
Yeah.
know?
And don't
You
let
do
it
what you
affect
can
you.
do on your end, and if people don't respect you enough to stick within your boundaries and schedule on your time, then maybe that just wasn't meant to be and you move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you
Absolutely.
don't give it a second thought. Don't sit there and worry about, did you do this or did I do that wrong? Or move on. I don't look at anything as a failure anymore.
Mhm.
I really don't.
Well, there
It
really isn't such a thing as failure. It just means that you've found something that doesn't work. So you just need to pivot and try something new. Keep trying until you find something that does. It's not a failure, it's a learning experience. Yeah. And I
exactly. It
think
was a
if
lesson
we could
learned.
shift our perception and start saying, no, you didn't fail. It's just you've just learned. What have you learned from it? And
Mhm.
how are you going to proceed? And how are you going to change it? If we could stop saying to people or saying about ourselves, "Oh, I've failed," because that is not good. It's not good for you at all, for
Yeah.
your well-being. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and it's hard work, but it's kinda like finding a positive out of every situation because there really is one. You might not wanna see it, but there really is one. For
Yeah.
the longest time, I wouldn't have told anybody there was anything positive about my husband passing away.
Mhm.
Loved him dearly, didn't wanna hear it.
Mhm.
But working with a coach, I realized that, had he not passed away, I would still be caught up in that rat race, doing whatever I thought I was supposed to do to make ends meet. I would not have launched into my own business
Yeah.
or found a better way to help others. I would not have done that.
Life
And
happens because of you, not to you. Yeah. So it's what
mhm.
you needed. So it's what you created. Absolutely. And talking about creation, I know that you created a Facebook community. So tell us a little bit about that and why you think that building a community of that kind is so important.
So I love connecting people. I've always been good at connecting people.
You are.
Um, there we all have experiences, and I think experiences sometimes speak louder than the studies, because I can relate to somebody better if I know they've lost a spouse. If you've never lost someone and you want to try and coach me, that doesn't really sit with me. So I've got the White Sands Self-Care community group on Facebook that I've built, which I would love for people to join. It's a public group. There's judgment free, safe space. Everything I do is a judgment free, safe space. I want people to have that support. So I invite people to come on there, introduce themselves, tell them about it. It's not a, hey, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. We're all business owners. We all have something to offer, and it can be done in without a sleazy way. But you don't know what's out there because self-care is something you have to do for yourself. You're the only one that can do it. But it doesn't mean you have to be on that journey by yourself.
That's
And
right.
the community is built to provide. I do the live interviews on there, just a quick 15 minutes so people can get to know the other people in that group. And when you hear someone in their story, I think it helps you resonate to them to understand that it's a real person and how they can makes you relatable. So I love doing those and creating, so that they can learn about people, learn about other options that are out there. If it's not for you, great, don't watch that video. Watch another one. Who cares? The
Yeah.
Mindful Mondays TV show, same concept, just a whole nother level.
Yeah.
It's what I love to do. I think we can do more together than by ourselves. And I think people are getting tired of having medications and stuff thrown at them. And I think they're getting tired of being told what they can and cannot do.
Yeah.
And there's a whole community of people out there that can help you. They don't have to be in your backyard. They could be across the pond, or wherever. But there's a lot of information, a lot of knowledge. I have met so many cool people over the years and even more talking to people about the Mindful Mondays with Laura
Yeah.
Cross TV show because it's all about being mindful and self-care is everything. It's emotional, it's physical, practical, professional, spiritual.
Yeah.
self-care, self-image, it all relates to self-care.
Hmm.
And we need to
And
work on the body and mind and body as a whole and
yeah,
not not
holistically. Yeah,
not not not
absolutely.
do the Band-Aid approach. Doesn't work.
Yeah, and not just, looking at a physical condition, without looking at everything else in its entirety, because like you said, it's all connected, the mind and body connection, and everything is manifesting itself physically. So
Mhm.
if you are having physical symptoms, you need to look elsewhere. You need to look at the emotions, and you need to look, spiritually, like self-care. Are you getting enough self-care? You're looking after yourself, because 99% of people don't look after themselves. And like you said, um, they think it's selfish. And I remember being, when I was raised, it's I was always encouraged to do things for somebody else,
Mhm.
but not so much to look after myself. And now I understand that it's totally the other way around. You've got to look after yourself first. And then if you're looking after yourself and your tank's topped up, your energy tank is topped up, then you have that energy and you have the endurance to actually go and look after those that need looking after. So it
Mhm.
is top priority, and it's not selfish at all. It's selfless, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really helps you get a different perspective. Yeah, it's a whole different perspective. It's a much lighter feeling. Everything doesn't feel so heavy and weight on. It's a really important, which is why I built that. So I do have the White Sands Self-Care um, website that people can go to. Um,
Hold on, because I need to press buttons here. So, the White Sand Self-Care, yeah?
Mhm. Yep,
Okay.
that is my website. So if anyone wants to scan that barcode, they can connect with me on there. You can also see more about me, different products or services or partnerships that I have built, but you can book a call and we can talk, especially if you're needing that help or you're feeling stuck. You just need to work through someone, phone call's free, doesn't ever hurt to get a discovery call and see how we can do. But the other thing, like you said, back to the travel, it's important to get away. And just know that getting away does not, a week to 2 weeks is most health beneficial. It absolutely is. However, if you do not have the time, you do not have the money, take away for a half a day or just spend a day off. You can, well, drive in the mountains, drive to the lake, do something different, shut the world off. If you are going to travel, though, this barcode here will take you to my travel savings website. Can save you up to 60% on hotels, a whole lot more. There's a concierge that can help you, but there's also contact information on there on how to get a hold of me. And if it's not something you want to do on the website, you'd rather speak to me, my contact information is on there. Reach out because you need to step away. Um, you got to do something to step away and reset, change your environment up a little bit, even if it's not permanent, might just be temporary, but it's a great way to reset and boost your immune system. There's a whole lot of health benefits to traveling and going, which we don't have time to go into, but is most
I
definitely a good part of self-care.
Yeah, absolutely. I would totally agree with you. And I have been looking on this website, and they have some fantastic savings. I mean, up to 60% for travel at the minute is fabulous, because I know it can be really expensive. So if you're looking for some savings on your travel, is definitely a good place to go, Laura.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
And like I said, I'm always happy to help. I just know nowadays a lot of people are all, do it themselves, which there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah, yeah. So
It's
your self-care journey, it wasn't something that happened immediately, was it? It was something that took quite a long time.
It took a long time and I would say it's still in progress,
Yeah.
you know?
It's not
It,
something that you can turn around overnight or even within a few months, is it? It's something that's got to be
No, you'll start
progressed.
to if you become very mindful of what's going on, how you're feeling, and you don't get in that robotic mode of doing this, and then not knowing where your day goes. You'll start to understand and you'll start to see how it's helping. Even if you're just taking 5 minutes in the morning to read or to listen to a song or two, make playlists that make you happy. Make different playlists. If music's your thing, there's so many different things you can do. And you can start by cutting out 5 to 10 minutes a day, and it might grow into 3 hours or whatever. But you'll notice the changes over time, and only you can tell what's working for you and what's not.
Yep, and I think I went through a whole ton of different things. I think I took a lot of information from what other people were doing, like journaling, for example. I
Mhm.
cannot journal. It just does not resonate with me at all. On the odd occasion, maybe every 6 months, 9 months or so, I think, yeah, I've really got to get this written down, and I will. I'll spend and I'll write several pages, but it's not something that I can do every day. It's definitely not something I can do every day.
Mhm.
So I've been chopping and changing different things. So it's not a one size fits all because like we've already talked that if everybody wanted to do the same thing, then it would be so boring.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
nothing is. I know we're out of time, but, I
Yeah.
really wanna say thank you for having me on here today. I really appreciate it, and, I love sharing this, so
I have loved having you. It's always a pleasure. And this lady is very, very much passionate about helping everyone in their self-care journey. So if that is something you would like to do, she's your girl because she's super fantastic and a very good friend of mine. Highly recommended. But I love you lots, and it was lovely, lovely to see you. And thank you for coming on. And I want to thank the viewers as well. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week. Bye.
bye.